I'm on with the ministry team, and I was thinking about, this has been a tough year for everybody. This has been a year that we've had many challenges, many life-altering situations that have transpired. And it's just been hard. It's just been hard. And I've watched how everybody has weathered through. I've watched how some have discovered parts of them that they didn't know existed. I've watched how some have dug their heels a little deeper, and I've watched how some have become more relational. I've watched how some have become more or reacquainted themselves with God. So as I've been doing this watching, God has shown me some things, and some of the things are good and some of the things are not so good. And in seeing these things, my mission this evening was just to help you know that God has not left us. God is still walking beside us. To let you know that in those tears that we're crying, He's heard every cry. He's heard every prayer. He's heard the screaming. When you're in your place of your quiet place, He's heard all that. He's heard the song. He's heard the heart of the songs. He's heard all of that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the process of being broken. Either God is going to break us. He's going to break the outward man suddenly, or He's going to, and when He breaks us suddenly, He breaks us like through a major crisis that happens in our life. When He breaks us gradually, it's kind of like chipping at a piece of stone with like one of those little stone picks, and it's just slowly chipping away. Sometimes the Lord will bring us daily conflicts, daily trials. He brings us difficulties. He brings us difficult people. He brings us hard circumstances, physical problems, and all sorts of things. But we have to understand that each person's breaking is different from another person's breaking. We have to understand that one of the determining factors of an outward man's breaking is the inward man's resistance to the breaking. So, y'all understand what I mean when I say the outward man and the inward man? Okay. So, can someone tell me what they think the two types of brokenness are? The people in the balcony? Elder White, you're in the balcony, so can you tell me what are the two types of brokenness that you think exist?
If I had to guess off the top of my head, I would say definitely mental. I think a lot of times we get mentally broken because of the stuff that we go through kind of trains us for the environment we think we are in.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely would say maybe heartbroken, because there are things that break our hearts that just cause an emotional sense of things, whether a good response or a bad response. I know there have been times when I've been heartbroken and you cannot see the good person in front of you because you're dealing with the baggage left over from the heartbreak of the last. So that would be my guess.
Okay, those are good answers. But do you know that those are symptoms? Those are actually symptoms. So the two types of brokenness are involuntary brokenness and voluntary brokenness. So involuntary brokenness is when there's this traumatic situation that may occur. And in this traumatic situation, it usually follows when those symptoms like you described, heartbrokenness, a failed relationship, a death, deep depression. This involuntary action or involuntary brokenness is where people try to go to their own resources to find a solution. They don't go immediately to God looking for our assistance. They walk away thinking, I got this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be able to solve this. And so they learn to cope with it using their own strengths. There's usually a little bit of bitterness. There's some anger that transpires in this. And one of the big questions they ask are, why did God do this to me? Why am I in this situation? I didn't deserve it. I didn't do anything wrong. So what do I do? So the Bible talks about Jacob being a good example of involuntary brokenness. God spent many decades trying to break Jacob. You know, he was scheming, he was, lying, he was doing a few other little things. And it wasn't until Jacob finally wanted it did he get broken. But again, I told you, everybody's brokenness happens in their own time. Some people happen suddenly. Some people don't. And Jacob was one of those people that was involuntary because he fought everything. His outward man had too much pride, had too much greed, it had too much haughtiness. And so when he finally wanted to be broken, when he was finally at that stage of acceptance, because in our brokenness we follow the 5 stages of dying. You have that anger, you go through grieving, you go through denial, you go through bargaining, and you go through an acceptance. Jacob finally had, when he crossed over into his breaking, God left him with an affliction, an infirmity. And that was supposed to be his constant reminder of where he was brought from and how he had to, on a daily basis, continue that. So they say it was a day marked where he had lost everything he gained within his own strength. And it was the day he gained everything worth having. So he lost what the world told him was valuable. And he gained his spiritual richness. But again, it took decades. And as I said, he's an example of an involuntary type of brokenness where we try to think we got it. And we have all these resources available to us, and yet it still misses the mark. And so the other one is voluntary. This is where you have this intentional response to God saying, I surrender. I surrender to your will. I surrender to your way. I know that I can't do this on my own. The feeling of I got this, bow down. It bows down. And you hear the knowledge that through Christ Jesus, only through Christ Jesus, can I accomplish the impossible. And so they talk about Daniel and what's his name? John the Baptist, as being good examples of a voluntary brokenness, because their faith, no matter what transpired, they held true to what God's word was. It didn't matter what came. Daniel was thrown into the lion's den. They thought he was going to be nothing but a pile of bones in the morning, and he was actually sleeping among the lions. He tamed him. The faithfulness that Daniel had, he tamed the spirit of God within Daniel, tamed the craziness, the lions within the den. Like God said at the beginning when he had Adam name the animals, that we would have dominion over them. So in your voluntary brokenness, you can speak and command, and it is. And it is. And also Daniel changed the heart of the man who imprisoned him. So understand that in your voluntary brokenness, your actions demonstrated will show the people around you, even when they disbelieved, and they were straddling the fence and they could see a couple of good things happening to you, that it really is worth bowing down and laying everything down before King. It really is. So I started talking about how this year has been hard. It's been a hard year for everybody. And so I've been in this kind of strange, and that's for lack of a better term, place. Because I have a bunch of things going on in my life, good, bad, and indifferent. And yet I'm not where I used to be when it comes to dealing with them and handling them. And I'm watching others do the same, at least what I see. And it's funny because my understanding or my invisible sight has me still holding on. I know that sounds really weird, right? My invisible sight, but I don't know how else to put it. I have tried and I've searched and I've tried to understand. Give me the words so I can just, because it's like that fire shut up in you and you just want to run around and tell the goodness of Jesus, and it's like I can't get these words out of how exciting this point in my life is. And I'm not saying I've arrived. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I'm still walking my journey, but I'm loving the journey, the good, the bad, and the indifferent. Because when you get to the point of acceptance and the point of just wanting to lay it all down, in the end, I still come out okay. It may not be where I want it to be. It may not be where I thought it was supposed to be, but I need to take me out of it. I need to take me out of it. And the more I'm taking me out of it, the easier or more peaceful it's been. So, but let me ask you this question. What happens to you when you're walking around on this journey? You're stumbling, you're wobbling, but giving up is not an option. What do you do? What do you do? You keep pressing. You keep standing. I think that's what you said, Sister Dawn. Yeah, it's, the team I'm on, I keep saying my team because y'all my family. We have been through a lot together. And we've been to births, we've been to deaths, we've been to celebrations. We've seen the good, we've seen the crazy hairdos, and regardless of how we have not gotten it right all the time, I know I'm where I'm supposed to be. I know I'm supposed to be here. I feel like we're all different parts, different appendages of the body. I feel like, without, Brother Cecil might be the right hand, and when he's not around, there's still something lacking. We got pastor who's the head. We have First Lady who is the spirit and the heart. So when they're not around, there's something that feels missing. So when I'm talking about the team, we have to continue to stand strong. We have to continue to rely on one another. We have to keep doing that, because we have this thing where, because we're in ministry, I'm not supposed to tell nobody how broken I feel. When we're in leadership, because of the place that we're supposed to represent, it's kind of hard to just let your hair down and tell somebody, I don't have no food in my house. It's kind of hard to tell somebody that my heart is broken because my dad passed away, and I don't know what I'm going to do without him. It's hard to say those things, because you want to always represent the face of strength. You always want to be that heart for somebody else. You don't want them to think that every little thing you do, you crumble. So I think sometimes we miss those moments of being real when we could have helped somebody. So I think that's important. I think that we have to be a little bit more real. I ain't say outside all crazy. I'm just saying we got to be just a little bit more real. We need to let people see that how we push through. And I know I sound like I'm rambling. I feel like I'm rambling, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, yes, sir, Brother Cecil.
I was just thinking about what you're saying. I know, first, a lot of things that's going on in the world today is biblical. So we have hope at the end that we don't even have hope. We know at the end we win. But in the meantime, and I think what you're saying is this world is so much about representation and what you see at face value. You can go on social media and see Cardi B and Kim Kardashian or somebody else's blow up, and it's all about what's going on with them. Like, I think the latest thing that I saw today was Chloe and Tristan Thompson now about to break up. But the only thing you see is these stars and how great they is, but you don't see their heartbreak, because these days nobody wants to see the heartbreak. We just want to see the end result. We want to see the winning. We don't want to see the process. And a lot of times, especially as leaders, when we get to, I think what you're saying is when we get to the point where we stop being so transparent and just live in our trial by ourselves, we don't help the people around us understand how to get through the trial, because at the end, when we come out of the trial, we showing the victory, but we really didn't show the journey.
Right. The journey, the portion of the journey is important. So I only have one point tonight. I have one point. It's called Recognizing God is in the process of your breaking. People think that it's my environment. They think that because I live in maybe the poorest town, part of town, or I have degenerate type of people that don't want anything living in my midst, or because my family, everybody is on drugs or something, that's supposed to determine me. And I had to tell some people from where I grew up back home, my environment doesn't dictate to me. I dictate to my environment. I'm telling my environment who I am, and my environment has to accept who I am. We don't tell our children enough. We don't tell each other that enough. Don't allow your environment to tell you who you are. You know, and the more your relationship is with God, the more that you fellowship with other believers, the more you believe that, the more you understand that. And so recognizing that God is in the process of us breaking, the devil didn't do it. As Pastor always says, we're going to go to hell because we don't blamed everything on the devil. And actually, it was because we allowed our environment to dictate to us. We allowed that little stumble to become this big obstacle. And instead of taking that obstacle and looking at it as an opportunity, we have a tendency to say, oh, wow, I guess I can't go. Well, I guess I'm just going to be stuck here, and this is where I'm going to stay. That's a lie from the pit of hell. I'm going to tell y'all that. That's a lie. I was one of those type of children that when my father told me I couldn't do something, I was like, oh, game on now. I'm going to show you I can. Yes, I do. I get it from my father. I do. It's game on for me. When you tell me I can't do something, and I'm just like, how can we do this and do this really well? And that's how I feel, you know, and that's how we have to continue to instill in our children and our people and our family and our husbands and sisters and everybody that's around us. Don't let this world tell you who you are. That bothers me so. That bothers me so. I'm going to slow that down before I get it on a little soapbox. Y'all all right there? I'm sorry. Am I speaking too fast? Am I speaking just too much in the ramble? Okay. I'm just making sure I'm where you need me to be. Because sometimes, you know, when we get up here, I have a tendency sometimes to ramble because I hear a passion. And so I speak on that passion instead of staying focused on where God is trying to tell me. And so I'm trying to get everyone to understand and recognizing God is in the process of us breaking. Breaking is not a bad thing. It's like submission is not a bad thing. Surrendering is not a bad thing. But the world has made us think that it's a bad thing. There's no dirty words. And I tell you, And then other times we start the blame game. We start telling people, well, see, if Sister Chickenfoot, she was talking about me, right? And so it just made me so angry. And so because she was doing what she was doing, I went out and beat my kids up in the street because they made me so angry. And you're like, so you have no fault in this? Really? So how do we get the generation back? How do we take what we have learned and how we grew up? How do we continue to pass that on? Because I remember when my grandfather would talk, it would be so mesmerizing to me that I'm sitting down by his feet and I'm just listening to him. Or it was a good thing to sit down and talk to an aunt. You know, they're carrying down generation information. So how do we get this generation now, the ones that are going to be wiping our tails, how do we get this generation to understand what was passed on to us? Anybody? Sister Dawn? See, I know your mom and your dad passed down a lot of wisdom. And that's where your family gatherings, everybody talked about the old things that have happened and generation from generation. And so some of those recipes, some of those habits, some of those desires and dreams have come to fruition because of those things.
But it goes beyond just the talking. But if you're not listening, then you're just talking just to be talking. And a lot of this younger generation, they don't want to listen. So
Yeah.
how do you get them to listen?
Brother Cecil?
To me, the answer, well, if I was to answer, it reminds me of just one Bible scripture: "Be not weary in well doing." Because yes, one thing that I have figured out or noticed is you can get really tired of saying the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, expecting different results, until you see the different result. And then when you end up seeing that different result, and it's kind of like even with your kids, sometimes you could tell your kids over and over and over and over and over again to do something, and you get tired of it. Because I know sometimes my kids make me just tired. I be, dude, I want to go back in time and I had no kids. But then, well, yeah, 'cause I'm tired of how many times I got to tell you to pick up the clothes off the floor. I done been, you 29 years old. I told you just 365 days out the year for the last 29 years. That's over 50,000 days. And I told you this 5 times a day. That's 250,000 times I done told you to pick up the clothes off the floor.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But if one day you go over their house and you be like, oh my God, the house is clean. Then you think back to all the stuff that you told them and all the things, you start to see the flourish or the fruits of the labor that you done bared for forever. Then that kind of gives you a rejuvenation. I'm vastly over exaggerating, but my point is, when I'm thinking about do not get weary in well doing, even in this Christian life, we can yell Jesus, 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 save 1,000 times. But if we only get one soul, then that's moves the point. And I think a lot of times as Christians, sometimes we just get tired.
I think that kids, they're always listening. They're always listening. It's not that they're not listening, it's just that they choose not to do. Because they think that they have a better answer or they can do it differently. And I don't have to do it mama's way because I don't have to do it daddy's way because, they're older, times have changed. But what they fail to realize, even though you're in a different century and you're in a different generation, the same stuff goes and it comes. It goes and it comes back around again. So I think it's just a matter of being consistent. We have to be consistent with our kids and with others. Like Elder White said, if you got to say it 250,000 times, at some point or the other, the light bulb is gonna come on, and they're gonna do what they're supposed to do. But the Bible says, train up a child in the way they should go. So it's up to us to train them. That's our job. We have to train them. We have to give them what we have, whether we feel like they're getting it or not. We give it to them, and then at some point, then they're responsible and they're accountable for themselves. But it's our job to constantly give it to them, because I get tired of repeating myself too, but I realize I have to keep saying it. After a while, it's gonna snap. They'll get it. So they're always listening because they can sit down and tell you everything that you said to them, and then you be like, well, why you didn't? Well, y'all don't be understanding. What you mean we don't understand? Yeah, we understand. The times y'all dealing with more stuff than we were, they're dealing with more stuff than we were subject to, and
Right.
stuff that came, but now everything is so open and you got all this social media to when it was happening, we didn't know about it.
Right.
But now that social media, they have access to a whole lot and they're exposed to a whole lot of things. So,
Right.
but it's still the same advice, the same words still stand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. You talk about train up the child in the way they should go. Y'all know my son. Love him to death. But Lord knows I didn't think he was going to make past 2. And so, I would tell my dad, oh my God, Dad, was I this bad? I mean, how as parents, we say, we pray upon you, the children that you are today. You know? And so I was asking my dad, was I this crazy? Was I all this all over the place? Because my son was really rambunctious. And he was, because he grew up with, until he was about 4 years old, he grew up with my cousins and my brothers. And they were like, raw. You know, they would suplex him and all that kind of craziness. So when he came here, he wanted everybody to do the same thing. So he would run into the kids at school. And they were like, and so the teacher, and I think she planted more of this than what was really, they're afraid of him because he's just so all in your face talking to you. And Aleem can go any place, no matter where it is, and be comfortable. And that's kind of scary to me, but he can. So I've had my issues with Aleem up and down, and this past year, he decided that he was moving to Tennessee. I was like, okay, not really knowing where you're going, but okay. And so when it didn't work out where he originally went, I was like, come on home. I'm on my way down there to get you. I got you, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, no, let me just work this out. And I'm thinking, dude, you need to come home. You need to just, work it out. And, you can save your money while you're living here. And then he called me back and he said, it's not that I don't want to come home. I can't come home. And I was like, yes, you can. You can come. He says, no, you don't understand. I can't. You can't keep rescuing me. Because if you always rescue me, I'll never learn. And as hard as that was the most heartfelt moment since giving birth to him, that I'm like, oh my God, he got an aha. He got a light bulb. And is every day rosy? No, it's not. But I have instilled enough in Aleem, and he's seen enough of what I do, and when we didn't have, he's seen all of that. He's lived all of that. So it is his saving grace now. And it's cool, because he sends me these little messages now, and I'm just like, oh, wow, he really is growing up, isn't he? But, and I didn't understand that. Back when this was all happening, I was like, but I need to make sure he's okay, and I didn't trust what God instilled in me to instill in him. Because I have to remember, he doesn't belong to me. My children don't belong to me. They were given to me for a period of time for me to plant some things in them and water and let God do what he's supposed to do in them. So, anyway, that was part of my breaking process. Learning how to say no, learning how to let go and let God, and learning how to enjoy. Don't always be so tight. Don't always be so stringent about everything, surgical. Whatever. Hey, I said it's a journey, y'all. It's a process. God is a process. I'm going to tell you a funny story. Y'all remember back in the day when our parents or grandparents used to put plastic on the couch? And they wouldn't let you in the room. They wouldn't let you in the room. Okay, so I just bought a home. And when Ariana would leave stuff around, girl, are you kidding me? She'd be going in the living room with the dog. She's sitting, rolling around. And I'm just like, go get the vacuum. Go get the vacuum. And then I had to stop and think to myself, Kim, that's not the type of house you grew up in. And my house was the house that everybody came to. Because they knew that there was nothing but love in there. It wasn't so tight, even though my dad was as straight as they come. But it wasn't so tight. And I want that house. You know what I mean? I want that house. And yes, I am still working on me. I think I'm getting heckling from the audience, and I'm so sorry for y'all in the TV world. So let me bring this back to James and being broken. So I was listening to a song that with me kind of lingered around with me. And it's called Broken by Shekinah Glory. And the woman starts this song off with, she's been singing, and she's looking into the crowd, and she's seeing how her words are healing people and breaking something in them, and yet she's still feeling missing, and she's feeling broken, and she's wondering how she's going to make it through, because she's like, Lord, I don't want to be envious of what I'm seeing out there. I'm looking in their faces and I'm seeing that they're being healed, and I'm thanking you because you're using me to heal them. But what about me? What am I supposed to do? I'm feeling broken. I'm feeling in a place that I can't deliver myself. I'm feeling in a place that I'm feeling like I'm surrounded by just depression and in a bad place. And what do I do? And she wants to know why it isn't working for her. So she holds on to the question of, what's wrong with me? Why am I not feeling the way that I see you working through me to them? And I know sometimes we as leaders, we feel like that. We sometimes come in and we're praying and we're sweating and we're just so on fire with Jesus and helping somebody in a point of life that they have a turning point. And then sometimes, if we keep it real, we walk home feeling the way we came in. And I know we've asked the question, what about me? I need something too. I need you. I need to hear you. And so you're screaming, I am tired. I just need a break. I just need something just to give me a little air. Let me get a few bubbles inside my lungs, and then I can just breathe a little better. And yet it doesn't come. And in this song, she is saying, I need you to come right now. I need you to talk to me. And God is silent. You're hearing crickets. And you're like, I need you to talk to me. I need you to be here. I need you to be in this place where I am, because I'm feeling all alone. I am broken. I just need you. I just need you. And you still don't hear him. And so you're sitting there and you're just like, okay. I'm not walking away. I'm not walking away from this place, because I know this is my appointed day and my appointed time. I need you. And then finally you hear him and he says, you're right where you're supposed to be. I need you in that broken place, because now you're back to where we used to be. You're back to that place. Now you call for me. You cry for me. The passion is real. It's not a job. It's not a duty. It's not a thing to do. And that's what God is asking of us. That is what he's saying to us. He needs us in those broken states. He's not leaving us. He's not walking away. He's not telling you that you always have to be in pain. But if you trust him in that broken place, you'll never need. You'll never need. I don't know. I've been in places in my life where I would literally be walking around the house screaming. And I'm having this intense conversation with God, and I'm just like, when I first came here, and I walked away from a very good job at Bosch and Lomb, getting ready to get promoted. I walked away from a home that was my family home. It was my first home that I had taken over. And I just got my car. I had got everything that I thought I needed. Everything that I wanted. And God said, I'm going to need you to move from Rochester, and I need you to come on down to Charlotte. And I was like, that's the devil. I ain't supposed to be here. And I was like, yep, okay. And I said, you know what, Lord? I tell you what. If I'm supposed to be in Charlotte, then I'm going to feel you because I know you. I know your smell. I know your presence. I know you. So I know if I'm supposed to be there, all right. So y'all know I like to drive. So I'm the one that drove when we first came down here to look in February of 2002. And as soon as I got on the corner of First and South Tryon, that feeling said, whew. And I remember when I came here, I didn't have a job. We didn't have a place until a week before we were supposed to arrive. And I remember a lot of different things just falling right into place. But things started messing up. Things didn't seem as easy. They weren't coming as easy as they did when we first came. And I was angry. And I was like, you brought me here. You told me to come here because I sure wouldn't have left on my own. You told me to come here, so I'm calling you on the carpet. I'm calling you to do what you said you was going to do. You told me if I came down here and took care of what you told me to take care of, you were going to provide. And I think sometimes it takes that for God to realize, no, for you to realize that God didn't walk away. Because if I had, and now that I look in hindsight, it was what I needed, what I was asking him for was there. I didn't recognize he was in my breaking. I didn't recognize that he was in my breaking. So, talking about my title, when I talked about broken, am I? I'm not talking in the sense of being broken and I'm down, depressed, just, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying broken am I, meaning I have surrendered. I'm in my journey of surrender. I'm in my journey of, I'm coming around that corner. I'm in my journey of, I'm feeling good in my skin. I'm in my journey of, Lord, I trust you. Even though I'm looking at this and all this craziness is happening and the threats are coming here and defiancy is coming here and I got cook straight down the middle. I'm looking at all this and I'm still trusting you. Because I recognize it's you that's orchestrating all of this. I'm recognizing that it's you who has shaped my spirit and me, my mindset, my heart. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm chasing after his heart. I am finding myself in positions that are challenging, you know what I'm saying now, that are opposing the good that I want to do and the help that I want to give. And every time I turn around to help a particular person, I keep getting like that, like, I'm going to tell you who I am. And I'm just like, oh, let me just calm that down real bit. You know? And every time you say something to this person, they're like, you're not going to tell me, I'm going to tell you. So I'm thinking to myself, because Pastor and First Lady always say it, going there, can't tell been there how to get there. And I'm trying to help this person out because if they don't listen, they're going to get let go. And I'm like, if you just slow down, calm your attitude. Voluntary brokenness is my whole attitude is surrender to the will of God. My attitude changes, my heart changes, my mind changes because of the recognition of who God is in the brokenness. And we as beacons, and I know it gets weary, and I know sometimes you're just like, yeah, I'm going to take my shoe off and go in the bathroom with them. That's how you feel. But I'm here to tell you, if you recognize God in the brokenness, it gives you the peace that you need to say the words you need to encourage. It gives you the peace you need to be in a better place, even in the chaos. It gives you the peace that you need that literally when they're walking away or driving away with your car, you're like, I guess I'm getting a better one coming soon. And it's the outlook. That's all it is. It's our outlook. That's the pure joy. That's the pure joy that James is referring to. Have you changed your attitude so that your outlook is different? We always talk about the perception. We always talk about our viewpoints. But I'm here to tell you, it doesn't matter where I stand. My outlook is going to remain positive. It's going to seek out that pure joy. Because if we don't, oh, hell gonna break loose. I'm just letting y'all know that. And that's not where we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be the ones that calm it all down. So, as I wrap this up, know how to recognize God in the brokenness. Know how to develop your relationship with God in order to be able to recognize. Because if you don't have a relationship with Him, you're going to miss Him every time. You know, I was watching this video and it talked about Faith Street. If you're not on Faith Street and you're on the street of doubt, street of depression, and you're waiting for your blessing, you wonder why when you go up to heaven and they walk you around and your name is on this door and you look behind the door and all these boxes, you're like, well, what's all this? They tell them all your blessings that because you wasn't on Faith Street, you missed. So it went back to return the sender. But it had to go in this room because what's yours is supposed to be yours. Can't give it away. But because you missed Faith Street, this is where your blessings are. I promise you, I want my room to be empty. I want everything that God has for me and then some. And what y'all don't want, y'all can send over me and care of. I'm just saying. I want every blessing that I was promised. And I know that's going to happen. I know I'm here. I know I'm where I'm supposed to be. I know this. So I hope that what I spoke this evening was encouraging. I hope that you're able to lift other people up. I hope that you're able to lift other people up, you know, because broken people are motivated to be faithful and they make others successful. Broken people know that they know that any praise of their accomplishments belongs to the Lord, and that criticism can help them grow into spiritual maturity. And if you haven't heard anything else, broken people are real. We ain't got no time for all this phoniness. We don't do the craziness. We don't do the disturbed. We'll pray for you, but we don't do the disturbed. So, just letting you know about that. So, I thank you for your time, for listening attentively. You know, I'm glad that those people pressed their way out tonight. And it was the weirdest thing doing this message, but I'm glad those that came, I hope I blessed you, and I hope that you got something from that teaching about being broken. We have to keep continuing to encourage one another. We have to keep loving on one another. We have to help and be in the gap, because sometimes there are those that they don't believe. There are those that they look to us for encouragement. They look to us for what should we do next. And as long as we don't enable, we will plant seeds. Enabling is not planting seeds. It's putting tar over the dirt. So, as we wait for the kids to come back in from class, does anybody have any questions, any comments? Y'all a quiet crowd tonight. I know y'all miss your pastor. I know you do. Mm-hmm.